The mistake lasted exactly 4 seconds. 4 seconds for Celine Powell to walk through the door. 4 seconds for billionaire CEO Jethro Rodriguez to realize his assistant had sent him the wrong candidate. 4 seconds that should have ended with, "I'm sorry, there's been a mix-up." Instead, it ended with the most expensive sentence ever spoken in that $8,000 office chair. "You're still listening." What happened in the next 60 minutes would either prove that desperation makes you dangerous or that sometimes the universe puts exactly the right person in exactly the wrong place. Welcome to Kindness Arena. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unseen connections that change lives, please help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter and deserve to be heard by hitting the subscribe button, liking the video, comment your thoughts, where you're watching from, and share it with someone who needs it to stay motivated. Your support keeps these powerful, true stories alive. Jethro Rodriguez didn't make mistakes. In 15 years of building Meridian Industries from a garage startup to a $2.3 billion empire, he developed a reputation for 3 things: ruthless efficiency, perfect preparation, and never, ever hiring people who couldn't keep up. Which is why, on a humid Tuesday morning in August, when his assistant Marcus knocked on his corner office door with an iPad and a nervous expression, Jethro didn't even look up from his laptop. 10 o'clock is here, Marcus said. Send them in. 5 minutes, Marcus. If they can't impress me in 5 minutes, they're out. Marcus hesitated. Sir, I should mention. 5 minutes. The door opened. Jethro finally glanced up, his practiced interview smile already fading. The woman who walked in wasn't wearing a power suit. She wore Target clearance rack, a navy blazer with a small stain near the pocket, black pants that had been hemmed by hand, and shoes that had been polished so many times the leather was thinning at the toes. She was maybe 35, with dark circles under her eyes that no concealer could hide, and she carried a canvas tote bag instead of briefcase. Her resume trembled slightly in her hands. Jethro's jaw tightened. This was the candidate Marcus had been raving about. The perfect fit for his chief strategy officer position. Someone who couldn't even afford proper interview attire. "Ms. Powell," he said, his voice ice. "Please sit." Celine Powell sat, and something in her eyes caught him. Not fear, not desperation, but something harder to define. Determination, maybe, or defiance. "I'll be honest with you," Jethro said, leaning back in his $8,000 Herman Miller chair. "I don't know what Marcus was thinking. This position requires someone who can operate at the highest level of corporate strategy. Someone who understands boardrooms, investors, quarterly projections. Someone who knows what it's like to make payroll when there's only $200 in the account," Celine interrupted quietly. "Someone who's had to choose between marketing and keeping the lights on. Someone who's built something from absolutely nothing because failure meant her kids didn't eat." Jethro blinked. "Excuse me?" Celine pulled a stapled document from her tote bag and slid it across his glass desk. "You're interviewing the wrong person, Mr. Rodriguez. I'm not here for the CSO position. I'm here for the executive assistant role that was posted last week. Your actual CSO candidate," she checked her phone, "is probably still in the lobby wondering why he hasn't been called up." The silence that followed could have shattered windows. Jethro stared at the document. It was her resume, but now he actually read it. Celine Powell, owner, CP Digital Solutions, 2019 to 2024. Grew client base from 0 to 47 small businesses. Annual revenue, $340,000. Company status, dissolved, March 2024. "You ran your own company," he said slowly. "I ran my own company," she confirmed. "And I lost it 6 months ago. Client bankruptcy triggered a cascade effect. I couldn't recover." Her voice didn't waver. "I have 2 kids, Mr. Rodriguez. 7 and 9. Their father isn't in the picture. I have $3,000 in savings, 2 months of rent left, and I need a job. Not the job you're offering, because frankly, I'm overqualified for it, but it's the job I can get." "Then why are you still sitting here?" "Because you're still listening." Jethro should have ended it there. Should have apologized for the mix-up, sent her back to the lobby, and moved on with his precisely scheduled day. Instead, he found himself leaning forward. You said you understand making payroll with $200 in the account. February 2023. I had 5 contractors depending on me. I didn't eat lunch for 3 weeks, but everyone got paid on time. Why? Celine met his eyes. Because I knew what it was like to be on the other side. To count on a paycheck that doesn't come. Something shifted in Jethro's chest. An old memory trying to surface. He pushed it down. Your company failed. My company failed, she agreed. Want to know why it bothers me that you're interviewing for CSO right now? He raised an eyebrow. The audacity. Enlighten me. Because you're about to make a catastrophic mistake, and whoever you hire won't tell you. They'll be too invested in protecting their 6-figure salary. Bold claim from someone applying for an assistant position. Celine opened her tote bag again, pulling out a laptop so old it had visible tape holding the corner together. She opened it, typed for 30 seconds, then turned it to face him. Your Q3 projections. I pulled them from your investor relations page. You're expanding into the Southeast Asian market, specifically Vietnam and Thailand. Major capital investment. Your board approved it last month. Jethro's eyes narrowed. That's public information. The public information is the problem. You announced it too early. Your competitor, Axiom Tech, has been quietly building relationships with local manufacturers for 18 months. You're about to walk into a market where they've already locked down the supply chain, negotiated favorable terms, and established brand recognition. Your expansion won't just fail, it'll be a very public, very expensive failure that'll knock 15% off your stock price. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Ow, Jethro said carefully, do you know this? Because one of my former clients, before I lost everything, worked in logistics for Axiom. I helped him optimize his regional distribution strategy. He's not there anymore, but the connections I made. She closed the laptop. The information is out there, Mr. Rodriguez. You just have to know where to look and actually listen to people who don't live in corner offices. Jethro stood abruptly, walking to his floor-to-ceiling windows. 43 stories below, Manhattan pulsed with morning traffic. He'd spent 6 months on the Southeast Asian expansion. Millions in preliminary costs. His board was unanimously behind it. If what you're saying is true, it is. Then I need verification. Data. Sources. Give me 72 hours. He turned. What? Celine stood, slinging her tote bag over her shoulder. Give me 3 days and access to your market research team. I'll prove every word I just said. If I'm wrong, you've lost nothing. If I'm right. She paused at the door. If I'm right, you hire me. Not as an assistant. As a consultant. Contract basis. 3 months. If I haven't saved you at least 10 times my fee, you let me go. And if you're lying, if this is some elaborate con, then you'll have my address from the application, and my savings account is $3,000. Not much to sue for, but you're welcome to it. She walked out before he could respond. Jethro stood frozen for 30 seconds. Then he grabbed his phone. Marcus, get in here. Now. Marcus arrived at a near run. Sir, I am so sorry. The scheduling software. Forget it. The woman who just left. Celine Powell. I want everything. Background check, credit history, professional references, and get me Gerald in market research. The CSO candidate is still. Reschedule him. This is more important. For the next 3 days, Jethro's normally orderly world tilted sideways. Celine arrived at 6 a.m. on Wednesday with her ancient laptop and a cup of bodega coffee. She'd arranged temporary access through Marcus, though Jethro noticed she'd brought her own lunch, peanut butter sandwich in a plastic bag. She worked in a small conference room, and Jethro found himself making excuses to walk past. Each time, her screen showed different data, shipping manifests, LinkedIn networks, local news sites in Vietnamese and Thai. She'd somehow connected with former employees, industry analysts, even a graduate student writing a dissertation on Southeast Asian manufacturing trends. By Thursday afternoon, Jethro's market research team was in crisis mode. Gerald knocked on his door, his normally cheerful face pale. She's right, he said without preamble. I don't know how she saw it, but she's right. Axiom has partnerships with every major manufacturer we were targeting. They've been operating through a subsidiary, different name, paper company setup. It wasn't in any of our competitive analysis because we weren't looking at the subsidiary level. How do we miss this? Gerald shifted uncomfortably. We relied on the same databases, the same reports. Standard industry practice. But Powell, she called people, actually picked up the phone and called mid-level managers, logistics coordinators, people who don't show up in LinkedIn executive searches. She speaks conversational Vietnamese, learned it helping an immigrant client years ago. These people talked to her because she wasn't threatening and wasn't corporate. She was just curious. Jethro sat back. What's the damage if we proceed? Conservatively? $200 million in losses over 2 years. Possibly more if we can't exit gracefully. And what do we do instead? Powell has suggestions. Sir, you need to hear them. The meeting that followed would later be described by board members as the most uncomfortable 2 hours of their professional lives. Selene Powell, in her Target blazer, stood at the head of the conference table and dismantled their entire expansion strategy with surgical precision. But she didn't just destroy, she rebuilt. You can't compete in Vietnam right now, she said, pulling up a map on the screen. But you're not seeing the bigger picture. Indonesia, fourth largest population in the world, rapidly expanding middle class, an infrastructure investment that's 5 years behind Thailand but moving faster. No one's paying attention because everyone's focused on Vietnam and India. Indonesia, one board member scoffed. The regulatory environment is challenging, yes, which is why you need local partnerships, not foreign domination. Joint ventures with Indonesian firms. You bring technology and capital, they bring regulatory knowledge and cultural fluency. You're not trying to conquer the market, you're trying to grow with it. Another board member, the timeline, 18 months instead of 6, but sustainable, and while your competitors burn cash fighting over Vietnam, you're building something real in a market they've ignored. Jethro watched her field questions for 90 minutes. She never flinched, never hedged. When she didn't know something, she said so, then explained how she'd find out. When the board finally filed out, the chairman paused beside Jethro. Who is that woman? Someone I interviewed by mistake. Late Friday evening, Jethro found Selene still in the conference room, packing up her ancient laptop. The building was nearly empty, the city lights painting her face in amber and shadow. You saved me $200 million, he said from the doorway. I saved your reputation. The money's secondary. My board wants to offer you the consultant position. $5,000 a day, 3-month contract. Selene's hand stilled. $5,000 a day. 90 days. That was, she did the math, nearly $500,000. And you, she asked, what do you want to offer me? Jethro stepped into the room. The truth. Your company failed because of a client bankruptcy. I read the case file. Hammond Digital. They owed you $127,000 when they went under. That's what killed you. You were too small to absorb the loss. Yes, but Hammond Digital's owner was arrested 3 months ago for fraud. He'd been running a Ponzi scheme for years. There's a victim fund. You're entitled to compensation. Selene's face remained neutral. I know. I'm in line, behind 17 other creditors. Maybe in 2 years, I'll see $20,000. Or, Jethro said quietly, you work for me, and I advance you the $127,000 against your consulting fees. You can restart CP Digital Solutions. Run it alongside consulting for Meridian. Build it properly this time, with capital with connections. Why? The word came out sharp. Why are you doing this? Jethro was quiet for a long moment. Then, I was 19 years old when my mother got fired from her job at a textile factory. I was in college on a scholarship. I couldn't help financially. She was a single parent, like you. She found work eventually, but those 3 months... He turned to a window. She lost our apartment. We stayed with her sister. She was so ashamed she barely looked at me for a year. I'm sorry. She died 6 years later. Heart attack. The doctor said stress was a factor. And I built this company promising myself that if I ever had the power to prevent someone else from experiencing that kind of desperation, that kind of shame, he faced her. You walked into my office 3 days ago, overqualified, broke, and desperate, but you didn't beg. You offered value. That's rare. Celine blinked rapidly. I don't want charity. Good. Because that's not what this is. This is an investment. You're going to make me a lot of money, Ms. Powell, and in the process, you're going to rebuild your life. That's not charity. That's capitalism at its best. She laughed with a broken, exhausted sound. When do I start? You already did. The Wall Street Journal article ran in February. Meridian Industries pivots east. Indonesia bet pays off. The stock price had climbed 23%. The board member who'd scoffed at Celine's suggestion had quietly apologized. Celine Powell sat in her new office, not a corner office, but close. The frosted glass door read, Director of Strategic Development. Her laptop was new. Her blazer was Brooks Brothers. She'd paid off 8 months of back rent and put a down payment on a reliable car. More importantly, CP Digital Solutions was operating again. For clients so far, all referrals from people she'd met through Meridian. She'd hired 2 contractors, both single mothers she'd found through a local nonprofit. They worked remotely, flexible hours, fair pay. Her kids had new backpacks without holes. Jethro knocked before entering, a courtesy she appreciated. The Indonesia team wants your input on the Jakarta office design. Apparently, you have opinions about conference room layouts. I have opinions about everything, she said. It's my most annoying quality. It's your most valuable quality. He set a folder on her desk. Your 3-month contract is up. This is the renewal offer. 2-year employment agreement. Salary, benefits, equity options. The number is generous. Celine opened it. The number was more than generous. It was life-changing. There's also this, Jethro added, placing a second document beside the first. The victim fund came through. Hammond Digital Settlement. $127,000 plus interest. The advance I gave you 6 months ago, consider it forgiven. This is yours, free and clear. Celine stared at the check. $134,000. She could pay off every credit card, build a real savings account, take her kids on a vacation that wasn't camping in her sister's backyard. I don't. She looked up, eyes bright. Why did you bet on me? Jethro sat across from her. Do you want the business answer or the truth? Both. Business answer. You had skills my organization lacked. You saw problems from angles we'd stopped looking at. You were hungry in a way that can't be taught, only earned through hardship. That makes you valuable. And the truth. The truth is my mother never got her second chance. She worked herself to death trying to survive, and no one helped. No one gave her the break she needed. I can't change that. His voice softened. But I could change it for you, and maybe that's selfish. Maybe I did this for me as much as for you. But the outcome's the same. You're here. You're thriving. Your kids are okay. That matters. Celine picked up a pen, then set it down. I'm going to do something stupid now. What's that? She stood, walked around the desk, and hugged him. Jethro froze. He wasn't a hugger. Never had been, but after a moment, he awkwardly patted her back. Thank you, Celine whispered, for seeing me when I couldn't afford to be seen. When she pulled away, they were both blinking a bit too fast. So, Jethro said, clearing his throat. The contract. I'll sign it on one condition. Name it. Meridian starts a program. Small Business Emergency Fund. When good companies fail because of circumstances beyond their control, clients who don't pay, market crashes, whatever, we step in. Not charity. Loans at 0 interest, repayable when they're stable. We give people the bridge my company needed. Jethro smiled, not his professional smile, but something real. Done. You'll run it. I'll run it. Nights and weekends, until we hire someone full-time. Of course you will. He headed for the door, then paused. Celine? That interview. When Marcus screwed up the schedule. That wasn't an accident. She froze. What? He didn't screw up. I saw your resume in the assistant application pile. Former business owner, degree from state, kids, obvious financial need. I told him to schedule you for the CSO slot. I wanted to see what you'd do when you walked into a room where you didn't belong. You set me up? I tested you and you passed. You didn't apologize for being there. You didn't shrink. You saw an opportunity and took it. He grinned. I make mistakes, Ms. Powell, but hiring you is never one of them. He left before she could respond. Celine sat down slowly, staring at the contract, the check, the life she'd almost lost and somehow found again. Her phone buzzed, a text from her daughter. "Mom, can we get pizza tonight? Please." She typed back, "Yes. The good pizza, not Little Caesars." OMG, really? Really? Celine picked up the pen and signed the contract. Then she took a photo of the check and sent it to her sister with a message. "Remember when you said I'd never recover from losing the business? You were wrong. Some mistakes turn out to be the best thing that ever happened." Outside her office, Meridian Industries hummed with afternoon activity. Somewhere in Jakarta, construction crews were breaking ground on a facility that would employ 300 people. In a conference room down the hall, Marcus was scheduling next week's meetings with his usual precision. And in a Target clearance section somewhere in Queens, a blazer hung on a rack with a small stain near the pocket, waiting for the next woman who needed it. But Celine Powell didn't need it anymore. She'd never needed the blazer at all. She just needed someone to look past it. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness is never wasted and that even broken path can lead to beautiful places and change of lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Arena because your support keeps stories like this alive and spreading. Tell us in the comment what you would have done differently if you were the CEO. Would you have offered her the job? Or has a stranger's kindness ever changed your life in ways you didn't expect? We'd love to hear your story.